Welcome everyone. Today is Tuesday, May 26th, and the time is 7:05. We'll call this meeting to order. Melissa, will you please take the roll?
Okay, Melissa Denton, Carl Hubner, Denise Meyer, Richard Poor, Bob Weimar, Pinkerton Student School Board Member Eliana Henry.
Here.
Thank you. And also seated at the board table is Superintendent Bob Thompson and CFO Jeff Dowd.
Very good. Please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Board members, please review the minutes from the May 12th regular meeting and the non-public.
Now or no? Okay. Under summer hiring delegation, I just observed that Dr. Poor nominated Dr. Durkin and Dr. Hubner seconded. So I just wondered if that was, I mean, I'm not taking it away from him, but. Okay, I just didn't know that. So if you really want to do something, then you can say yes.
I'll make a motion to accept the May 12th public minutes and non-public minutes.
Thank you, no worries. Melissa, do we have anyone that's come forward for public comment this evening? Okay, thank you. All right, we will move right on to school highlights with HMS Principal Bernard.
Okay, good evening. So today I have 8th graders, Elsa Devine and Lena Kukulu, who are going to give the middle school highlights. I'm very grateful for them coming today because they came straight from a golf match, so we're very lucky to have them. Come on up, ladies.
Transitions at HMS. At Hampstead Middle School, we have been welcoming our incoming 5th grade students and families in many different ways. During this month, we debuted our new Explore and Soar program. This was the brainchild of our 5th grade math teacher, Heather, who, as you know, comes to HMS after many years as a 4th grade teacher. While Heather's valuable insight welcomed each 4th grade class in middle school to spend 1 hour with a core sub-teacher, while also giving students this opportunity to experience a 5th grade class firsthand. Students then stayed for lunch and recess with our current fitters. We received fantastic feedback about this into our transition activities. We're also incredibly proud of our 5th grade students who served as outstanding role models and demonstrated the expectations of the school students so well. On the evening of May 19th, welcomed our incoming 5th grade families for a parent night. Families attend a brief presentation all about middle school, followed by tours of the building led by grade ambassadors. On June 12th, we will welcome the entire 4th grade class for our meeting day. HMS students and staff will greet the 4th graders with an exciting in the cafeteria. Students will have highlights from the band and chorus performances and some of our clubs in action, including the Anti-Bullying Club. Afterwards, students will have the opportunity to spend time with each of their core academic teachers. We believe that bringing our future students to campus and giving them the opportunity to meet our staff students, we can help ease their fears. Excitement for the school year ahead. We would like a huge shout out for school counselor Melissa Carpin, who has been an instrumental success in all events. Virtual classroom experiences for grade. On Tuesday, May 19th, grade 5 students had the opportunity to meet virtually with 3 students from Athens, Greece. Thanks to a connection made by the educator in Greece, though Sen Flynn last year, this has become a 2-year tradition. During the 45-minute Q&A session, students exchanged questions prepared in advance by their teachers and learned about the school life, meals, food, sports, field trips, and daily life in Greece. The final 15 minutes were especially as students talked about current trends, popular music, and sports. On Wednesday, May 20th, the grade 5 team participated in a powerful virtual presentation with a survivor of the Aberfan disaster in Wales. On October 21st, 1966, a coal tip collapses from the mountain above Pantglas Primary School in Aberfan, Wales, swept into school and part of the town, killing 116 children and 28 adults. Gaynor Magdwick is one of the 3 survivors from her grade school classes. She shared her story with the student. Jen Howard first connected with Gaynor 2 years ago and invited her to speak virtually with students. This year marks the 60th anniversary of the tragedy, and Gaynor, along with BBC, reached out to Jen and shared their story once again. HMS students had previously studied the Aberfan disaster in both science class as an example of a natural and human-caused disaster, and in social studies as a historic event. Hearing directly from primary source brought history to life in a meaningful and unforgettable way for students. HMS Afternoon of Service, May 27th. We are excited to share that HMS students will participate in an afternoon of service tomorrow, May 27th. Inspired by the work of our 8th grade teachers under the leadership of Katie Wolf, our entire school will take part in activities focused on giving back to the community and developing empathy for others. Our 8th grade students will participate in a variety of service opportunities, including volunteering at St. Anne's Food Pantry, visiting HCS for the Mental Health Read Aloud Gizmos Prim, assisting at the Hampstead Public Library, and helping with cleanup efforts on local conservation trails, town fields, and beaches. Our 7th grade students will remain on the HMS campus, working alongside our facilities crew with campus cleanup projects. Our 6th grade students will participate in activities centered around kindness action, including creating kindness rocks and writing letters to elderly community members. Lastly, our 5th grade students will focus on welcoming incoming 4th graders by creating an advice wall for new students and decorating the hallways in participation for their arrival on June 12th. We are looking forward to spending the afternoon focused on service, community, and helping others. Upcoming events and activities. This Thursday is the mile run for all grades, and this June is the Spring Eye Ready testing. And for 5th grade, they have their Seacoast Science Center field trip. The 6th grade is going to the Freedom Trail. 7th grade has their Strawberry Bank field trip, and 8th grade goes to Canopy and has a beach cleanup day. On June 5th, we have an ice cream social for all the grades. June 10th is Hawk Awards, which will be run by LCA, and June 18th is the graduation for all 8th graders.
Thank you, ladies. Any questions for them about their updates? I have a couple other things as well. You may notice that in my report I gave an update on our open FCS position. I am pleased to share that we have, after I submitted this, we had a excellent qualified candidate, so we are moving forward with that process. So we are working on a plan B in the event that that work out, but I'm really excited about that, the prospect of this candidate. So stay tuned, because hopefully by our June meeting we'll have more information on that. Also, I just want to share that we wrapped up mass testing just last week. results are now available for parents online, and we are now in the process of reviewing that information and making plans for placement for students in enrichment and intervention for next year, and looking at some areas of growth and opportunity in our instruction. So we're analyzing that data currently. So any other questions for me?
It's just really awesome news about the FACS teacher, and then helping the students come up and see the school and get used to it is such an important thing, so that they don't have anxiety. So that's awesome. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I have to say, our 5th graders are doing such a great job being role models to the 4th grade students. In fact, they're, as these girls shared, the whole service project tomorrow is getting ready for the 4th graders coming up. So they're going to do an advice wall. They're going to decorate our whole, the whole 5th grade hallway for them. They're even going to start working on some letters because they met buddies, because they were all assigned buddies. So they're going to be writing them some letters. So really exciting stuff. Thank you.
All right, updates for Pinkerton Academy Student Board Member Eliana Henry.
Good evening. As the school year is ending, we don't have too many updates, or they're just becoming very repetitive, but we do have a spring instrumental concert May 27th, a senior awards night Thursday, June 11th, and graduation is June 12th. Then exams for underclassmen start on Thursday, June 11th. And today, the girls lacrosse team actually had a group of us from HMS come and do a little lacrosse clinic with us for about an hour and a half. So we got to coach them and play with them, and that was really fun. And that's all I really have. So thank you. Any questions?
Something from us to you for being with us all year as a board member. Just have a little letter wanted to read for you, Eliana, before you depart for the summer. So from collectively the board, we wish to express our sincere thanks and appreciation for your service as a student board member and as a part of our school board for the year. Your participation in our meetings will be helpful in the way that you represent yourself, Pinkerton Academy, and the student body is absolutely impressive. We would be delighted to welcome you back again next year should you choose to return. And other than that, we just wish you an awesome summer. Thank you for joining us. All right, moving to our next item, student services update with Mrs. McDonald.
End of year budget update for you. Just a quick reminder of our funding and revenue sources. We have 3 specific areas that I like to highlight. The ID federal grant, which allocates allocations provided to each district in the state annually. This is a 27-month grant, so we always have 2 open at the same time, as one is closing, another stays in process, and another one opens. Special education aid. This is state fund reimbursement for district costs that offsets the tax rate in the form of revenue. And then Medicaid to Schools is a federal program that reimburses districts for student health related services. So I'll get more specific with these as the slides continue. Our IDA funding allocations. So I did a 3-year overview. IDA Part B is for kindergarten through grade 12 plus, and then IDA preschool is specific to our ages 3 through 5 preschool. So you can see what the state has allocated in each of those areas to us specifically here in Hampstead over these past 3 fiscal years. The money for the 26-27 year has been provided to the state, but not yet released to the districts. So I will provide an update on that next school year, most likely in the fall. Our special education aid. So again, just trying to stay consistent with the school years that I'm reviewing. The school years on the left. The next column over is the state average expenditure per pupil. And then as I had gone through in my fall presentation, when I gave an example of a student that costs 3.5%, the estimated cost per pupil cap, that is the amount that we need to hit per student in order to be able to submit for special education costs and receive money back. So the 23-24 school year, the district received $655,934. Last school year, you can see there was a dip, and that was because the former commissioner had changed the percentage back to school districts to be the 67.5%, which significantly impacted us. However, for this current school year, the current commissioner allowed us to receive back 91% of what was submitted. So there was a significant increase in what we received back as a district at $916,013. We have not yet been informed of what the percentage will be for the 26-27 year. So I will provide an update when that is received. Three and a half times the percentage, sorry. Medicaid to schools, this is not an area where we collect as much. This amount varies based on student eligibility for Medicaid. What we bill for is more than we receive back. You can see that we did receive back more from the moving from the 23-24 school year into the 24-25. Right now, as of last Friday, what we have collected back is $6,516.15. So we can make the assumption that by June 30th, we will have hopefully at least collected back what we did last year, if not a little bit more. When we have students eligible for IEP services, we explain to parents that the related services or any medically necessary services they're receiving, we can bill Medicaid for. If they are eligible, then we receive money back. If they are not, we do not receive the money back. Yes. Go ahead. So far this year, we have submitted a little over $18,000 to Medicaid, and we've received back $6,500. I don't have the math off the top of my head. Last school year, we submitted a little over $19,000, received back $8,200 by June 30th. And then our operational expenditures. So the year before I came on board, the 23-24 school year, you can see what was budgeted, what was spent. So it was within approximately $300,000 of what had been budgeted for. The previous director had budgeted for last school year, so that had been increased a bit based on need. To $5,855,000. What we spent by the end of the school year was $5,239,000, and that's between July 1st and June 30th. As you are aware, many of our students are attending an out-of-district placement, transportation, extended school year, all through those summer months. So as soon as July 1st hits, we are starting to spend on our budget. And then as of last Friday with our current fiscal year, we walked into budgeting for this year $6,292,122. So far we have spent $4,497,184. Based on what's been encumbered, we are on target to spend at least 75% more of that balance by June 30th, with the possibility of even spending closer down to that dollar amount with any additional unexpected costs that might come between now and June 30th. What I don't have up there, if you can go back for a second, thanks, is our 26-27. Now I know we're going into a default budget. I don't have exactly what we'll have in student services. I know what was budgeted for was $6,220,756, which is a little bit less, not a ton, but a little bit. What our unknowns are going into next school year is always the transportation needs. As gas prices increase, our pricing for transportation can vary. Any additional in-district needs that our primary specialized transportation company may not be able to meet would be contracted out to a smaller transportation company. Any additional out-of-district needs that we may not know about right now, McKinney-Vento, we are obligated to make sure our students are educated and get to the district in which they're being educated, whether it is here, whether we're cost sharing with another district to send them closer to where they are located. So those are all our unknowns that can drive that transportation need up as much as we try to accurately budget. Contracted services, as I've mentioned before, our out-of-district placements can vary. It could be that there's an IEP with a need that they just don't have a staff member on hand for, so we may have to contract that service into the out-of-district placement, and that can be in the area of speech, occupational therapy, counseling, any of those services. If a student is due for a triannual review, the school may or may not have staff on hand to be able to complete that. So we again would contract the qualified professionals in to complete that assessment. And then any new needs that come into district, whether it's students that move in, whether it's current students that have needs that arise and we find ourselves in a situation where we need to either consider an out-of-district placement or consider a contracted service that we don't have currently on staff. Without access to a special education trust, we are having to take into account all of these unknowns. So we do budget a little bit higher to be fiscally responsible so that we can try and move around within our budget lines to make sure that all of our needs and costs are captured. However, I think that the reason for a slight decrease in our proposed budget is because over the past year and a half, I've been able to take a more analytical view of where our budget drivers are and be able to reduce where we might have over-accounted for before and found we weren't spending from. And in addition to a wonderful team that helps look at these on a daily basis as well. Any questions?
No? Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll move on to data governance plan with Ms. Tomaselli.
Hi, good evening. In your packets, you'll find the 26-27 proposed governance plan. I'm not going to project it as it is a limited release document. It is quite a robust document. For it to not be so many pages, it's about 48 pages right now. Been no substantial changes in the document here, with the exception of page 8. Page includes, under data compliance, it now includes the 3 policies that we've passed this year that pertain to AI in the district. So you'll see the last 3 bullets are EHAG, use of generative artificial intelligence, JICN, the prevention of identity theft and deepfake images, and IAL, the academic integrity and honesty policy. And then there's one little sentence there, actually 2 sentences in the following paragraph about the fact that the district recognizes that AI and emerging technologies create new opportunities and responsibilities that relate to data privacy. And for the people in the audience maybe weren't watching a few months ago, we did make AI presentation and presented our new AI framework. That is not repped in this document because that's more of an instructional framework and more of a vision. This is purely about how we manage data and software and security of the district.
And this data governance plan is similar to the surrounding districts, correct?
Yes. So this is based off a template that is shared at the New Hampshire Chief Technology Officers Council, the NTO. And ours has evolved a little bit of years to kind of include Hampstead's system, but that's why it's so big. It's based off of a state template.
So we take the template, we put what the Hampstead stuff is in under different places so that it
Yeah.
covers everything we use in the.
Yes, it's required by RSA 9. It's 65, 68 are all the privacy subsets of the law.
And is New Hampshire data governance, is that tighter than other states or looser than other states?
I think so. I don't see how it could get tighter, quite frankly. Like, our teachers are not allowed to use websites until they're approved. We work with a state consortium, SDPC, which actually works with several states. There are states that are not involved in that consortium, so I think we're pretty, I think New Hampshire's fairly restrictive and protective of individuals' privacy.
So there's a vetting process that goes even beyond the district and is at the very least statewide to make sure that everybody is protected.
Yes, every community participates in SDPC. We pay for that service. Districts that don't pay for that consortium read the terms of agreement and the privacy statements of every tool, and then they has to decide. So we're very fortunate to have fund for that consortium that kind of does that homework for us. We still make a decision internally, do we want to support the use of this tool to accomplish X, Y, Z?
Oh, thank you.
Any other questions? So I'm looking for the board to make a proposal to reaffirm the adoption of plan this evening. An annual readoption, just so you know.
I'll make a motion, readopt our data governance plan.
Second. All in favor? Oh, any discussion before we take a vote? Any discussion?
I've never read it.
Okay. If no further discussion, take a vote. All in favor? Excellent. Thank you. And on to school-issued student tech device screen time data with Superintendent Bob Thompson.
Okay, so at the last board meeting, I was asked by the board to collect some data on student screen time and technology use at school. So I did meet with the leadership team and we sort of collaborated on a survey. So the survey went out to staff. We had 37 respondents for a district survey. That's actually not too bad. That represents about a third of our instructional teaching staff. And so we wanted to keep it to 10 questions. There are a series of sort of Likert scale questions, and then also some open questions. And just to go through quick, the first question that we asked was what percentage of a given instructional week do students use school-issued technology in your classroom? You'll see that almost 50% says indicate that that ranges from 0 to 10%. And again, this is self-reported. Next question, in your experience, student-issued devices positively support student learning. We had almost an identical response rate for strongly agree and agree. It was almost half. And we also had about a third of teachers, almost a third of that were neutral. You can see the disagree and strong disagree. We asked, in your experience, student devices help students engage in learning activities. So again, we had a little less than 50%, 45% that either strongly agreed. And you see the numbers, they're somewhat consistent with the previous question. Then we asked a checkbox question, and that is which classroom activities prevent students from having student-issued devices? Number one, at about 7% of the responses, was research, followed by writing at 51%, and then collaboration, 16.2%, And also high on the scale was personalized learning at 64.9%. We kind of left that a little wide open. And then there's a variety of activities that were included in the category of like other. And the question, do you believe the Hampstead School District should develop guidelines or limits regarding student screen time use? We had just over 50% of our staff who said yes. And then what I did, there was a series of open-ended questions. And Nicole actually helped me with this. We actually did drop this into AI, just so we don't take credit for it, which we have to disclose on data governance plan, so that you get a summary response. So the very last page you can go through, and I do encourage them to do so, read each and every single response. But if you're looking for a summary response, you'll find that on the last page. And Mrs. Tomaselli, did you want to comment about any of the summary responses on the last page?
Sure. So what as Bob said, we dropped it into AI and we asked it to kind of consolidate the response per question. And we went question by question into like 3 major areas of focus. So that's what the 1, 2, and 3 are that you see on your statement. The patterns in reading both the individual responses that are all spelled out, and there were 37 staff members that responded from a variety of grades. But patterns that I kind of see is that our teachers would like to see a reduction in screen time, reliance on the one-to-one, more time spent with hands-on learning, collaboration, outdoor activities, face-to-face. They are concerned that excessive screen time has a negative impact on our students' level of focus, their attention span, their perseverance. You'll see throughout concern about fine motor, social interactions, ability to self-regulate. But they also specify that this is not just due to in-school usage, this is also technology habits outside of the school day. They're a little bit concerned about monitoring systems, but I feel like I need to point out that the good data governance plan that you just termed, part of that law is requiring consent for any type of tracking or digital monitoring. So that puts our hands held a little bit with GoGuardian tools that you may have heard about that allows to supervise multiple computers in a classroom setting. So we need to find other ways to monitor or the number of devices in a classroom at any given time. I think the clear focus is that they would prefer technology, and they cited many positive things about technology use in classrooms, but it had to be intentionally used as a learning tool in a thoughtful and deliberate choice. And so I think these are great conversations for our teachers to be having.
Board, I just want to thank our classroom educators for taking the survey and giving us the insight. They're in there day after day with these children, spending many hours with them, trying to guide them through. And I think, personally as a parent, I see a lot of these behaviors in my own children. And I think it's just important that we're cognizant of what's going on in the classroom. I will turn it over to any other board members that want to comment.
So thank everyone that responded. I did read everything. My question about the GoGuardian, can you explain why with parental consent it seems like we're not using that anymore?
GoGuardian had been used for years by New Hampshire school districts as a monitoring tool, so the teacher can see on his or her desktop 20 plus screens at a time. And there was an era when it was popular to project those in your classroom. So if an assignment, you'd be able to walk around and you'd put the 20 screens, and you can kids can keep each other track, you can keep track of what screen they're on, and if a kid or a student goes off task, you can pretty notably see it. I'm not really a fan of that style of classroom management, to be honest, but with the passing of 189, 68 are in there, parents need to be notified and consent in writing any type of tracking or digital monitoring.
And that's only, just to add to that, because that's absolutely correct, Nicole, that's only after approval by local school board after a public hearing. And there has not been an appetite previously for school boards to consider that service. And I'm not sure that I would recommend it, although I think some of our teachers have indicated that they miss
Yeah.
using GoGuardian. They found it a very helpful tool.
Yeah.
Just knowing others, we've been able to like see where they go and then sites off.
Yes.
Is that not like an option on any level anymore, or
Not without parental consent. It should not be an option.
do we offer parental?
We do not.
Why do we
No,
not?
we don't use the tool anymore.
Because, before parental consent, it would have to be approved by the local board and include a public, you would have to hold a public hearing.
I'm in education, I had no idea.
Yeah, I think a lot of districts are still using it, not realizing that it's illegal to do so without parental consent in a hearing. And so I've landed at the place where I think there's better ways to supervise and there's better lessons to develop that involve more engagement. And, maybe 25 devices on at the same time isn't the best path. Maybe the best path is 3 or 4 in small targeted groups. And we're fortunate in K-8, we're very good and adept and familiar with doing small targeted instructional groups. So that's how most of our teachers approach the technology in the classroom. It's very few classrooms you walk in and you see every device open at the same time. It's usually either you're with me, we're doing small guided instruction, you're working on something independently or in pairs, and then a handful of kids are doing their intervention work and rotate through the block.
The only other feedback I had is on the survey. I would have loved to know. I feel like I can kind of tell by reading the responses. I feel like maybe the primary teachers were responding, but like where it said how often you're using it in the class, like the grade levels would have been interesting.
Yeah. We did ask the question, I believe it's the second question, what grade levels do you with?
But with the percentage to be like,
can't-
oh, in first grade
Yeah.
we're using, like,
Yeah,
like
we'd
the
have to do some-
60 more than 60% of the time, I want it to be like, was that the UA teacher
Yeah.
responding?
It could very well be. We have a computer class at the middle school and they are on the computers quite a bit.
This
So.
is good information.
Mhm.
I like the idea of a district like creating like
Thank you.
a guide or like here's the lens, right?
Mhm.
Here's what we're looking for when you use technology, and it's going to give a common language, and also it's going to give a level of comfort to the teachers. Like, this is why I'm going in this direction, and is it too much or is it too little? At least they have like an understanding and can have that conversation, as opposed to like they're doing what they think is best for kids and what they think the district wants, but that's a little bit more nebulous. So I think that would be a good thing, but very hard to put into words because
Yeah, and I would just gauge too the level of experience of teacher. We've had teachers that have been teaching here for long before the emergence of one-to-one, before all these classroom devices, and there is an affinity and a nostalgia about what those days of teaching were like, and then we have brand new, fresh out of school teachers that can't imagine doing things on paper. So we have the range. Mhm.
Yeah. I'd be interested in knowing the breakdown of how many special needs teachers were responding. Was it more than just a couple, or was it a significant percentage of the total?
So I do want to clarify, Bob, that all of our teachers teach all of the students special ed. So
Okay.
every student is a regular ed student first, just
Okay.
so we're clear.
Yep.
But I don't know that we took that question down. Bob, do you?
Yeah, so the board has the survey that's shared. You go in and kind of disaggregate the data by looking at the first question. If you could scroll up, Nicole, like you can look at individual responses. So if you were to go, actually, Nicole, click on responses, go to says 37. And then look at like an individual. You can see all of the individual responses. So if you go down, like this is like there's a grade 1 that filled this out, and this was these are their answers. So you can do that level of disaggregation to be able to see The one thing that we struggled with when we were coming up with I came up with survey questions, and then I ran it actually by the people sitting at that table, and they really, really tore it apart in a good way. It's difficult because we have professional educators who are an intervention class, or they support within the classroom. So we really focused on people who are teaching a class. That could be regular, it could be special ed, or it could be a unified, like the definition of teaching kind of means some different things. But you can go through, kind of break it down by those three different categories.
Bob, did you have something?
Well, if there aren't other questions, I may recommend that it's clear when we have more than 50% of our staff saying that they feel like they need guidelines, and I know this is, we're not voting here. We really want to honor what our editors are asking for, and I think also honor what I think the board is trying to get at, which, there's a lot of data right now that says devices, screen time is having an adverse effect on students, and that extends even into the tool. I think the best course of action, because I do think our policies are up to date, they're reflected in the data governance plan, is really for the administration to develop individual guidelines by building. And I think it was mentioned earlier that the amount of screen time that we want a first grader to have and how they're utilizing a school issued device is a lot different than how I'd with an 8th grader. And I also think within those guidelines, we can set parameters on what one-to-one looks like. For example, we've gotten a lot of pushback at the elementary school level with the idea of students bringing devices home because, one, they can be broken, two, they add another 10 pounds to the backpack, and but that might be different in the middle school. And I think if you were to give the principals under the direction of the director of curriculum and the superintendent a little bit of flexibility so that we could come back, even in August, and have some guidelines. And we've done this. We do this all the time. We did it similar when we did guidelines for showing films in classrooms, so it would be a process that would be similar to that.
One devices, and I know we're in the second year of a deep budget and technology is so huge. I don't know where this fits into this discussion, but maybe we don't need to be one on it. The do our preschoolers all have a device? I saw that in the comments about them doing Blizzard baggies at home online. Maybe we don't need devices at every grade level for everybody. I don't know. I don't know where that fits into the discussion, but.
Yeah, I kind of have the same thought in terms of thinking about, what changes or, what guidelines would be recommended. I think, getting into this, we were wanting to be part of the conversation and being prudent in our discussion about appropriate screen time based on age and where they are in the educational cycle. But I think that's in the hands of the educators that do the day-to-day, whatever guidance they think is appropriate. Do we also need remote learning days anymore? I mean, that came out also in the verbatims many times. So I think it's a good point in time to kind of reevaluate what we've been doing with tech and just hear from the team what their recommendations are.
I'm going to throw one more shocker out.
Yeah, go for it. That's what we're here for.
This is just, we're policy, but just, I don't know, do our kindergartners need to be taking iReady? Throw that out there. I know that's the reason they probably have devices, but I feel like we have other data. I don't know, just throwing it out there to think about.
Yeah. Our SAS data, I'm not sure, Mr. Weimer, if you're familiar with our SAS data, picks up at grade 3. So 3 through 8, we have state testing. We are responsible as a district to provide other means of testing. And so we choose to use iReady K through 8, and then we also use Acadience. One of the grants we're working on right now with the state is leaning heavily towards Acadience, but good data practices to triangulate. We don't ever want to be reliant on one data source. one data point and make a lot of decisions about that one data point, which is why we triangulate with iReady. There's a lot of criticism about iReady in the younger grades. However, there is some data that we get from it, and the students get familiar with the testing platform. As they get older, there's a lot less struggle getting those iReadies done, so we get the data we need to drive our instruction. So absolutely, you'll see that in the results, and you will see several comments about returning to traditional snow days instead of remote days.
Yeah, and the issue with that too, because the remote days have definitely become more unpopular, so to speak. It's our collective bargaining units that are required to have 180 school days.
Mm-hmm.
They're really, that's difficult to get around. And I know some districts are, looking at different models, but they are all kind of predicated on less than 180 school days. And I think that that's something that just needs to be looked at for future bargaining purposes, because first of all, the state does not measure in days more, they measure in hours. And so, that would give greater flexibility for the board or the superintendent to say, okay, we're not going to do 180 days, we'll, do 75. So it's just something to think about.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. So, Bob, recommendations on steps?
So what I would say is that I can work with the leadership team to begin that process of developing those guidelines. Definitely think that that's something that Joe would want some feedback in, because it will impact. And then the other piece that I would say, we were saying, Missy, is so, and I don't want to open a can of worms, but so we have already been through the RFP process for the selection of our Chromebooks for next year. We've got an agreement, they've been ordered, and you order them in advance, right? So they're coming. Now, how they get deployed, that's worthy of a conversation. Even if it's not if the board's perspective is policy, they'll have some input with how those devices are deployed, I think is important. The other piece too that I would suggest too is that if you're looking the following year to move away from that idea of one-to-one, do that during the budgeting process. Because as you know, we spend a lot of money getting new devices every year, adding protective cases, and that's really where I think you're going to want to have the conversation. We really want to have a 5-year replacement process that begins in garden, or do we want to order less? In fact, the budget, I'm not trying to guide the process, but the budget tightening we're seeing over the last few years may help to answer that question for you. So, just a thought.
Very much. All right, so the next item, I actually jumped ahead in the agenda, and it was to be where we graciously thank Eliana for time. We already did that, but it deserves another round of thanks, and we hope to see you next year. All right, with that, we are moving on to general assurances discussion. Dowd.
Hear me okay? So the general assurances are, or a set of assurances we provide to the local Department of Education in New Hampshire, certifying that we are complying with certain things. And you can, Nicole, down to page 3. So these assurances go for and cover many of our grant programs, some specific assurances for some more specific programs, but these cover pretty much all of our general federal funded programs. I'm sharing these with you. This was a suggestion of the Department of Ed a few years ago, and see all of the laws and regulations that we have to abide by, ensuring that we comply with all kinds. And if you hold it right there, Nicole, and under 9, we will comply with PL 93-34 regarding protection of human subjects involving research, development, and related activities. So we've got everything covered under these assurances. If you proceed, Nicole, down, you can see all of the obligations we have to the various laws and rules and regulations continue. Going to the next page, and to the next page. In the Davis-Bacon Act, I think we've just seen that that's something that we would comply with construction purposes if we are operating with funded funds to do that work. So you can see grants management requirements on, if you just go up for in the financial management systems that we need to have in place. Next page. You can also see the written and procedures that we have that have to tie to, well, typically will tie to the federal regulated the work that we do. We have to have internal controls set up. Next page, Nicole. We have certain costs that we submit for reimbursement will comply with what, well, for example, that they're allocated to a cost objective, which is D in that subsection. It gets very, very granular. They'll be subject to audits. Under number 5, and we will implement certain audit responsibilities. You can see that we have reports that we submit, which are typically audit reports, management decisions. Next page, Nicole. Single audit certifications, federal expenditure worksheets. So those are documents that I submit annually. Debarment, suspension, and other reasonable matters. What this section speaks to is that we will not do business with any entity that is debarred or otherwise suspended from doing business with the federal government. We actually check through our online system to ensure that all vendors that we work with over a certain threshold are in fact not debarred or suspended. See that we'll operate a drug-free or commit to operating a drug-free workplace. Next page. That there are rules, including Gun Free Schools Act of '94, that we will adhere to. And these are things that don't often impact actual expenditure of the funding that we're receiving, but these are policies and procedures we have to have in place to ensure that we're complying, generally speaking, with federal law. Next page, Nicole. Subrecipient lobbying. We want to engage in lobbying. Under number 10, number 11, subrecipient monitoring. We actually just completed a subrecipient monitoring from the Department of Ed. Everything seems to have gone well. They look at and take a sample from our grants management system of certain activities and then call us for the detail on those activities. And as of right now, it seems that everything is fine. The only recommendation that they had as a result of that monitoring audit, if you will, is an update to a couple policies which we looked at the last policy committee meeting, and the changes were more substantive than what we felt would be appropriate to approve without further discussion on the part of the board. Nothing heavy duty, it was like 2 minor policies that we need to revise. More restrictive covenants and conditions. In some cases, if you're considered a high-risk entity, you would have more conditions on you relative to the receipt and placement of funds, expenditure of funds. So we do have some obligations by us being the subrecipients, personnel costs, time distribution. We do have to have, when we have a grant, an object of our grant funded federally, we have to track and make sure that the employee who's being paid for that work is doing that work, and that work is all the work that they're doing, the time that they're assigned for that assignment is for federally funded purposes. Protect prayer in public and secondary schools, purchasing and procurement. That is the 27-ish page policy that we implemented a few years ago. DAF, yes, which should not be forgotten. So obviously for retention and access to records, we have Stevens Amendment, transfer of disciplinary records regarding students. Over the next page. So we'll comply as well with FERPA and PPRA. Next page, if you don't mind. So this is the certification, and lower half of the page it says the paragraph that starts with accordingly. I, the undersigned official legally authorized to bind the named subrecipient, hereby apply for participation in federally funded educational programs on behalf of the subrecipient named below. And I certify to the best of my knowledge that the below subrecipient, Hempstead School District, will adhere to and comply with the general assurances, requirements, and definitions But I further certify, evidenced by the minutes of this school board meeting, that I've informed members of the board of the federal funds that we will be receiving, and well, theoretically will be receiving, hopefully we'll be receiving, and these general assurances. And the reason for that is no one likes administration in a school district for some strange reason, which I get. And it's not delivery of education directly to students and that sort of thing, but we do have to have a framework and a backbone in place to ensure that the funds that we are receiving are being accounted for, they're being controlled, they're being used for what they're supposed to be used for, that we're billing, they're charging back the federal government appropriately. So that's a newer aspect that the former commissioner actually did put into place. And at the end of the day, I like it. I think that you as a board should be informed of all of the requirements that we have to comply with, because there are administrative requirements. Money's not free, so there are a lot of administrative requirements associated with the receipt of federal funds. And so we've gone through all of those in the general assurances. We do have some more specific assurances for some very specific grants that aren't as overarching as these. These are fairly overarching. So we would have the board chair, Denise, get you a copy of this, and as soon as the minutes are all set, we can have these prepared to be submitted. We will submit this prior to receipt of any allocations, not receipt of funds, but receipt of allocation of funds. Tell us what we will be able to receive. So rather boring. I appreciate the federal funds that we do receive, and it's important to know that we do have a backbone infrastructure in place to handle that. Thank you. Any questions?
One is an informational question. What does NHED refer to? Is that the State Department of Education? So they just didn't change the acronym. Okay.
Department of Energy, and they had to change their name to New Hampshire Education Department, while the Department of Energy has maintained the acronym of DOE. So,
well, that's really important. I appreciate that. The second question is, there's a discussion ongoing at the legislative level regarding the cost of administration in schools. And I just make this as an observation to the public that we don't necessarily have full control over what the administrative requirements are. And as you pointed out, the amount of effort required just to have the federal and state funds is significant. So I just think that's an important factor for people to realize when they say administration is too high. Not that our administration is too high, but the general principle that administrative costs are too high.
I appreciate you saying that, and I will add to that. This is a conversation that we regularly have, especially when we're in the midst of the legislative session, where every year the requirements for school districts are increased through legislative action. And, you know, at the beginning of the cycle at the state, there were over 400 education-related bills. And so the call for the elimination of administration while also adding to the administrative responsibilities every year makes that a difficult thing to do. So I do appreciate your comments.
I also think there's a cost to not having the proper administration. Claremont, they were $5 million in the hole. There's a district north of us that was $800K in the hole. There's a district on the seacoast that's almost $2 million in the hole, all because they didn't understand the process. And then you're scrambling and you're cutting positions and you're putting your district in a place that is incredibly unfavorable. So if you have the institutional knowledge, it's incredibly important. And so thank you.
I took the opportunity of printing out the bills for this year, many of which are voted inexpedient to legislate. But it's interesting to note the nature and the sophistication and the detail that many of these bills get to. And even with that, there's probably a good 25 to 30 that are either to be enacted or are close to being enacted. And I'm sure they're not going to be requiring any less administrative effort.
Sure. That's fair. And I know that someone on the board has the burning question. 19 pages of assurances. Was this put together in compliance with the Paperwork Reduction Act? I'm not sure. I don't know, but 19 pages seems excessive, but we do what we can to comply, so. Any questions?
Do you have something else?
Form on our internet site, or?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I just would like to buzz through it once so I can say I did so.
And they are good to review because they change every year. And not only do they change every year, but they can sort of subject, because they're coming from the Federal Department of Education, they can be subject to whatever administration is, currently occupies either this or the president not making a political statement, it's just fact. And so every year, we take a very close look at this. This was a document that was very popular during COVID. We were receiving large amounts of from the feds for COVID relief. And I would get questioned a lot. What are we having to do? What hoops do we have to jump through to get all of this, what appears to be free money? General assurance is the answer to that question. We not sexually harass people. We need to have policy regarding drugs and alcohol, all the things that are in this document. And I'm, Jeff and I would be happy with you, Bob, if you want to go through these, because there's a story about each one of those bulleted items.
It would be good and instructive for me to just read through them, understand them. Frankly, I've been involved on the municipal level to file these forms, so I do understand that. I'd be interested to see what additional bills are required.
Absolutely.
Are we good to move on? Very good. As a fast follow to that, federal funding authorization. Each year, the board needs to authorize superintendent and administrator to apply for and receive on the district federal and state grants ending. This time we are going to need a motion to authorize Superintendent Dr. Crawford and Mr. Dowd independently to apply for and receive on behalf of the district federal and states and funding, which may include approving and signing of the appropriate forms of bid, and to file such authorization forms with New Hampshire Department of Ed.
Second. Oh, you got it.
Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you very much. Next item, 2025-26 Superintendent Evaluation Update. Just for the public since the May 12th meeting, in accordance with CBI-R evaluation superintendent, the board will go into a non-public session this evening to approve the written evaluation of the superintendent. There will be a final update at school board meeting June 9th to wrap up the evaluation work by June 15th deadline and to complete the process for Mr. Thompson's 2025-26 evaluation. Moving into policy reading, we have in front of us, board members, policies in the board pack for second reading and 3 for a first reading. We will be requiring motion to adopt one set and move the other to second reading. So for the items are under second reading, I will read through these. We have up EEAG, use of private vehicle to transport students. Last revised 2011. The revisions include clarifying contracted carriers are not characterized as private vehicles. In accordance with the new contracted carrier provisions in SB 17, Part 3, which codifies RSA 3762. The second is DKC expenditures, last revised 12. Minor revision suggested to authorize prior approval for out-of-state travel to be granted by the superintendent or designee. Third, BBBF, student school member, newly coded policy reflecting the updated legal requirement of each school board to have at least one non-school board member from the district's high school serve on the board each year. However, since Hampstead does not have its own rule, the legal requirement does not apply. Their policy reflects the presence of a student board member as optional. And finally, number 4, JIBB, students under the school board, recommended to repeal and point to the newly adopted above, the BBB, student school board member. If you'd like to review those. Melissa, will we be pausing separate between these to motion individually? Okay.
So on the JLCK, the physical emotional well-being of students, part of it says physical health support and ensure access to nutritious meals and clean drinking water. How do we define access? The ability for them to get, or are we providing? I guess that's a question.
They're talking about access to healthy meals?
Yeah, to nutritious meals. Yeah. Is that saying the district is keen that we will feed everybody? That's saying they will have the ability to get food?
Yeah, those are really clearly defined USDA guidelines for the school lunch program and the school breakfast program, where they define both like what access looks like and also what healthy looks like as well. Those are the FR, they're the federal laws.
So in other words, we will serve food is nutritious, not junk food, so that if they have the ability to get nutritious food.
They do. They have they have access to it.
Okay.
And again, this is a new policy that came about in the revisions of Ed 306. So the Ed 306 are the series of regulations that tell schools what we have to do to maintain minimum standards. And in that Ed 306.04, there's a list of policies the district's required to have. There's approximately 20 of them. The board, at this point, is familiar with most of them. They added one when they revised the 306s last year. Actually, it might have been 2 years ago at this point. And they added a requirement that there's a policy that supports the physical, social, emotional well-being of students, and that's where the policy comes from. And it's the model policy from New Hampshire boards, so it's kind of that boilerplate policy that would be adopted in most other school districts as well.
So for the public, I'll review the policies in first reading because Carl picked up on one of these. So we have 5, LCEA, use of automated defibrillators, recommended to repeal and point to policy EBBCA, which I will read here in a minute, for more practical placement of the topic under subsection E that includes policy relative to school safety and emergency care. So related to that, EBBCA, use and locate automated external defibrillators. Recommended to relocate similar policy JLCEA code from subsection J to subsection E policy to join up with others that work directly to school safety, emergency care, and align NHSBA guidelines from November of 25. And then finally, JLC, physical and emotional well-being of students. Policy not on the books, recommend adopt and align with New Hampshire Department of Ed Rule 306 to meet the requirement to have such a policy to protect students as found specifically under Ed 306.04 B15 minimum standards. Those are the 3 new ones.
Sorry, I jumped ahead.
It's okay. You're excited. Policy. It is exciting. No, good question though. Any other questions or comments related to any of the policies at this point from members of the board?
I'll make a motion to adopt policies EEAG, DAC, BBBF, and JIBB as written.
Oh, go ahead, Rich. You got it. Rich, give it over. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor? Thank you.
A motion to move to seconding JLCA, CEA, EBB, CA, JLK as written.
You can give it to me, see if you want. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? Thank you very much. At this time, we'll be moving into board comments and correspondence. Go for it, Missy.
Advocacy Network. I lost it. HB 1817. I don't know if anyone is aware of what that bill was that passed and is headed to the governor's desk in a few weeks. Do you know this one?
No.
HB 1817, and people are concerned about it being a school voucher double dipping bill, and people are looking to school boards to draft letters, if we don't know what it is, I guess. It is 1811. So they were looking for school boards to possibly draft letters to let the governor know their thoughts within the first week of June. HB 1300, the mandatory statewide school budget cap, is meeting at 11 tomorrow. It's a committee of conference. It would go on November's ballot in every New Hampshire community. And then HB 71, another open enrollment bill, is also in committee of conference, and all of those have to be wrapped up by Thursday.
Can you explain the double dip?
I am trying to find the language for
I can
it.
speak. So HB 1817, previously, we had discussed, I believe it was in the fall, looking for some direction from the board about EFAs and participation in things like extracurricular, co-curricular activities. And there's a debate going on because school districts do have some latitude when it comes to being able to charge families. So if you are in receipt of an EFA, you're receiving $4,500 from the state of New Hampshire, and you try to enroll to play a sport here at the middle school. Should we charge? As of right now, there are no policies from the New Hampshire School Boards Association, and here in the district, we have not had requests for participation in activities by EFA families. So we've kind of sat on this a little bit, but I say that with intention. What HB 1817 says is you can receive EFA, so you get your $4,500 from the state of New Hampshire, and you can access your public school free of charge. And the two schools, one is I should be able to access it, my taxes pay for school, even if I'm receiving my EFA money. And then the other thought is you are receiving $4,500 to educate your child outside of the public school, and therefore if you're going to access resources at the public school, you should be charged for them.
As a board, feel that we need to advocate in some way and take a position on it?
Suggesting one way or other. I'm just saying if we want to, we would need to.
Right.
In the next week.
Yeah.
Or we can do
pretty quickly.
nothing, because I don't know if our concerns might be with an open enrollment and see where that goes.
So I would say of the three, so the double dipping would not cost the district money because that money is coming from the state level. That's a whole different discussion about advocacy, about voting. The putting the butt cap on could be detrimental because basically putting the onus on, you have to get the community to not vote for the budget cap, and then once it goes through, then you need a 60% to the budget every single year. So we're having a hard time passing 50%. And that, what the New Hampshire School Board Association said, that one is a possibility, but they don't quite know where it's going to go. And then the open enrollment. The last time I knew that the money again coming out from the state level, but that also means that you're going to run into an issue long term where it's going to, eventually the state will probably not pay for it anymore and push it onto local schools. So I think all of them are concerning. I think the budget cap is, to me, is the most concerning. So it goes against the idea of local control, which has been a New Hampshire tradition for a long time. So.
Wanted to bring it up. I'm okay to wait on this.
Like a comment. If folks want to have local control, need to have new legislators. Because the legislators that are there now do not believe local control.
We think we do not need to take a position on anything, or do we need to further discuss? Are we waiting to see where things pan out?
I think people individually can advocate
Yeah.
if they want to write in. I don't think the board as a whole needs to advocate. Sorry. It's because everybody tells me I'm loud all the time. I don't think we need to, as a board, to advocate. I think if people individually advocate as board members, by writing in, but I don't think the board should make a public declaration on these things.
Does anyone have anything else that they would like to discuss with the board?
So there's legislation HB 1563 that's been through the House and the Senate. Changes the reimbursement for special ed. Basically, if a special ed student costs $56,000, currently we pay 100%. If it's $56,000 to $79,000, currently pay 100%. We would pay 85%, so that would be better. From $79,000 to $227,000, it's the same at 20%. But then above $227,000, we would have to now pay 10% if this got signed by the governor. I have no idea what that means for the district. I did send the language on to Jeff, so that if you could put that and maybe let us know what the difference might be. But until it's signed, I don't know if it's really, if we need to.
It's difficult to project in a lot of ways. Certain expenses that we submit anyway are rejected. That said, there was an increase in that fund for catastrophic aid, and so it seems like they're trying to divvy up a little more of that fund, which will still be capped. So, that makes sense. So they have a bigger fund, they're being a little more generous with it in some ways, and it's still going to be capped.
So the change back to the 93% means that we're going to end up getting them more money anyways?
Conceivably. Oh yeah, and we had a significant boost in the past alone due to that factor alone, due to the fact that the fund grew and our percentage reimbursement actually increased for the first time in substantively in I don't know how many years.
That's awesome.
And I'll just add my own commentary. And Jeff sort of touched on this. Because it's a reimbursement, it can be difficult to determine what revenue will look in the future versus what we have with federal funds with DEA. IDEA, we find out usually in April what funds we'll have available for the following year, and then we have 2 years to spend. So that there's a level of predictability to that. So from a budgeting standpoint, moving more towards a model, and I don't that the proposed, and I haven't dug in, I've heard about the bill, any additional funding we can get is fantastic, but having some predictability, whenever they're going to have a pool of money and it's prorated, what the need is across all of the state of New Hampshire, and we don't really know what the needs in another district, that's a challenge. IDEA this year, we have $12,000. We knew it a year, and we can budget around that. Special ed aids are fine.
It is nice though, like Melissa did the presentation, like we're getting was it 91, 93? No, 91 versus this 3. So when they cut it, it's like 85 to 60. We were on the hook for $200,000. We didn't know we were going to be on the hook for it. And now it's gone back to, the supportive level that they did before. Whether that's enough or not, that's a different story. But okay.
The amount of, and I'll just revert back to where we were with grants and the impact on administration, the amount of administrative labor and work to be able to qualify for this reimbursement is tremendous. We have very talented people working on this one in particular, very, very talented, but it is this amount of work. However, going from 510,000 in 24-25, 916,000 in 25-26, certainly, that effort is worth it, but it does come at a cost, and it's administrative cost. A little detail that the department seeks on these, and the amount of tie-in to IEPs is phenomenal. I have no idea how they administer on their end, but it is very, very labor intensive.
Thank you for the detail you guys put in.
Anything else to report? No? Very good. All right, moving on to consent agenda, personnel report.
All right, we have one item in the personnel report, and that is an administrative hire. And I'm nominating Kathleen Ryan to serve as the next Hampstead School Special Education Building Coordinator. And there is some information in your packet in regards to this nomination. If the board has any specific questions, those need to occur in a non-public. I will also remind the board we are entering a non-public at the conclusion of this meeting, not just for the superintendent evaluation, but also to review administrative contracts. And that might be a good time to ask any questions that you might have about the nomination, but I would still ask for the board's approval.
So I don't know if this is a non-public question or not. So do we know which building she came from? And is that a non-public question?
That is, you can ask that in public, you can ask that in public. I'm not sure I know. Yeah, but that's a fair question.
What building she came from?
She came from
her current position?
Yeah, do you know what building she was working in Bedford?
She's the preschool coordinator currently, so whichever the preschool program is located in, I don't know off the top of my head.
And I can also look, Carl. Yeah, I'll take a look. I'm not Googling it.
Okay.
So she's joining us from the Bedford School District.
I will just say again, thank you for going and finding the best people. I especially am grateful, Bob, that you got Melissa and brought her over. Keep grabbing people from other districts. There's a lot of districts that haven't fully filled out their roster, and it's always impressive the work you guys do to make sure that we have the people we need.
Thank you. And, goes without saying that anytime we can attract people from the Bedford School District, which is a very good school district, it tells you we're doing something right here in Hampstead, because not a lot of people leave that school district, especially somebody with the qualifications and references that Katie has. Okay, Memorial Elementary.
I will make a motion to accept Kathleen Ryan for the special ed coordinator.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you.
All right, and just moving on to superintendent report, we'll turn it over real quickly to Nicole to give an update on the professional learning day that we had last Friday.
Hello, I'll be brief. Friday the 22nd, our curriculum mapping initiative for the school year was kind of coming to fruition. I met with faculty members, both staffs, in large group and in small groups. Curriculum mapping is not everyone's preferred activity, but it is very important that we have these discussions and kind of coordinate and align what we teach and when we do it among different subject areas. So our curriculum website will be overhauled with updated maps Of course, this work is ongoing. It is not going to be complete next board meeting, but there are maps that will continue to be developed in the school year next year. But the majority of what our teachers have completed, I'll be sharing with you at our goals update meeting. Also this year, you may have heard from some of our staff, we are now incorporating competencies through our curriculum maps. So that's been a cause of struggle to learn about competence, integrate them, figure out how we're going to organize the curriculum by strands or by units. And so different subject areas tackled in different ways. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
This was one of the school district goals, and at the meeting we'll report out on our 3 district goals. And I would just add, one, I appreciate all the work Nicole has done, our building principals and our teachers. I think in retrospect, for me, I won't speak for Nicole, this is a real heavy lift.
Yes.
You know, we used AI. There was a lot of excitement in when we rolled out an AI tool to help expedite this process. And I think there were some of our curriculum teams that were able to do some of this work in kind of short order. But you got to remember that complexity and diversity of all of the curriculum that is taught here in the district. This is not as simple as one professional day. And so there's still work, and I don't want to give a total spoiler because you're going to see, you get an update, but this is definitely work that's going to continue in the future to be valid as it really has the potential to be.
And next year we have social studies on deck, so you won't see any social studies maps in the next 2 weeks that are, well, I can show versions that are draft, but our final product will be worked on next year.
And just a note to our audience that all of our curriculum documents are available online. They do not reflect all of the competencies. They will, but they also do reflect it is that we teach in our classrooms. And if anyone has any questions about the curriculum, they could reach out to Nicole or the classroom teacher. It's very important that parents have an understanding of what their children are in the schools. And I'm going to turn it over very quickly to Mr. Dow to give an update on the HMS bleach field.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. We had submitted a request for proposal a while back, a month ago, and did not receive a tremendous overwhelming number of responses. We went to rebid on the 15th, which was about 11 days ago. We had a site visit on the 22nd, last Friday, and we're looking to close this out on June 3rd. Now this will replace, we have technically 4 fields, which will segment into 2 larger leach beds, if you will. And we're replacing just one of them, which is the far bed. We've seen some trees come down between where the playground area is and the upper field for an access road, which will need to be used to access the rear leach field, the field. The previous field, it's been there so long, the previous field actually came up through what would have been the Lindquist's property over what is now Agawam. So it's been there for quite a while. We are looking at very technical issues involving this very specific tie-in of new leach bed to the existing outflow system. Make sure we get that right. And we may have a little more detail on the plans finalized. If we get those updates in place, then we will extend the RFP out. And that's it. We've had some interest so far, which has been great. We actually pulled the interest of the number of bids we received last time so far. So going right.
I did want to mention also, when talking about the RFP for the lead that I do appreciate. I did meet with Mr. Wine. Like, this was his bread and butter for 50 years. You know, the expertise that he has and is willing to share, I think, is certainly valuable to the board. And we look forward to getting the project done. The only other note I want to make is, so last Friday, I met with the South Central superintendents, that's all of the superintendents in the Southern New Hampshire area, and one of the topics we spent a considerable amount of time on is hiring. And I say that because the hiring, the process and the pools of candidates out there, it is looking pretty dire. And so I thought it would be important that just wanted to give a very quick update on some of the positions that we have. I would characterize the number of positions we have open this time of year in comparison to previous years is probably about the same, if a little lower. So we have an occupational therapist position available, and these professional resignations have already come to the board, so there's no action. But in terms of an update on that, OT, very limited. In fact, as of today, we had one candidate apply for the position. Speech, we have 0 candidates. No one has applied. That is consistent across Southern New Hampshire. What occurs is contracting companies gobble these individuals up. They can negotiate on salary, whereas school districts are subject to collective bargaining agreements. I've already met with Mrs. McDonald. All right, what's our contingency plan? We have to fill the position, and so that is likely to be something that we end up going to contractors for. There's this delicate game: keep the position open. We're going to hope somebody shows up, but if we're in August making the decision to move to contracted services, the pool of contracted services starts to appear. So it is a decision that around this time of year that we need, and so we'll be doing that. And I would hope to be able to provide the board an update at the next meeting. HCS, we have a classroom teacher position available. Classroom teaching positions, especially at the elementary school in Hampstead, are very popular. That's going to be a problem. ELL teacher. Principal Bernard is in charge of that screening process for the district, and we do have some qualified folks, and I think we'll be able to fill that no problem. Reading specialists, so one of our reading specialists over to fill our open ELL position to cover for the retirement of one of our teachers, and that we do not have. I'd have to take a look. I think we've had one. The board may recall a year ago, probably to the day almost, the board actually approved. They took money contracted services to create a reading position. Well, if we don't fill a reading position, we might be moving in the other direction, where we're going to take that money and we're going to move it back over to contracted services. So again, that would be something that we would update either at the next meeting or at some point over the summer. So that's sort of where we are in terms of hiring. Not looking good out there. We are an attractive district to work for. Wages are relatively competitive. The school community and culture is considered to be pretty positive. And so, we'll continue our recruit efforts. That's really my report, other than I just want to say thank you to our educators, our leadership team, our teachers, our support staff. This is a time of the year where things are really heating up in school as we approach the end. Anyone who doesn't work in public ed will make comments like, oh, school must be winding down. No, don't wind down. They wind up and then it ends. But in addition to that, we also have our own families whose children are in musical events and end of the year celebrations, and to see the balance that our educators do every single day to ensure that students under care get what they need, but also their own families, is pretty extraordinary. So I just say thank you to all of them for the balancing act that they do and the sacrifices that they make. So that's it for the superintendent report. I'll entertain any questions that folks may have about any of the items presented or anything that wasn't.
Okay. With that, any other business to discuss? Nope. Okay. I'll look for a motion to move into non-public.
I will motion to move on non-public under 91A3, 2A, the dismissal, or compensation of any public employee or discipline of such employee, or C, matters if discussed in public would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than the member of the public body.
Thank you very much.